This will be our front door, this will be our back door, and there'll be like a hallway between the two domes.
Everything changed. My whole world just changed. You're doing it for yourself to build a dream.
A lot of work. A lot of work building this, and still a lot of work to finish it.
When you have a lot of big dreams, sometimes it looks a little different in your head than how it turns out. And that can be frustrating.
Some of our biggest storms, maybe we'll get 2 to 3 inches. That's just in our catchment area. Probably getting like 2,000 to 3,000 gallons of water.
Permaculture is all about setting up a system that basically is sustainable.
We decided to kind of take that challenge, kind of live in this environment, and see if we can't put those techniques that we've learned to the land here.
We moved out here a little over 3 years ago, and at that time we had no idea quite everything we were getting into, I think. Not a lot of experience building, so we were thinking, build some things, we'll build a house. It's taken longer than we thought, but it's been a learning process for us. We've had to get used to a different kind of pace, I think, out here, and allow ourselves the time to learn and grow and be okay with that, and I'm okay with that.
We kind of did a lot of research before making the move ourselves. We watched other people's videos, did a lot of reading on exactly what we're going to need to be doing. So we prepared ourselves mentally and physically before making that move.
We try to reuse, recycled, reclaimed materials whenever we can. It's more sustainable, it saves money a lot of times, and we have all these old used tin cans, we have some old flashing, extra materials from other builds, and these we're cutting up to use as shingles. They're going to go along the outside of our house. My name is Jessica Bonilla, and I live off-grid in the desert.
Water is incredibly important out here, anywhere, but especially here in the desert. We don't have a well or anything like that. We are 100% on rainwater. One of the first things we had in here were these water tanks, 2 of them. And they got about 2,500 gallon capacity each. A little bit less because I made some modifications to them. But this is our main water storage for right now while we're living in the RV. For me, it was mainly needing those challenges and needing something else in my life besides what the city could offer. It just gives us the space and the freedom to kind of do what we want. My name's Jim Bonilla, and I'm an off-grid homesteader. Once we moved out here, of course, gray water was a big concern, but also dealing with our personal waste, called Humanure. When we go, we got to do something with it. So we built this. It's affectionately called the Hacienda. But it's just basically a Humanure composting system. I set up several bins where we can compost our waste. I ended up putting a roof over the entire Humanure Hacienda system. That way we can collect as much rainwater off of this as possible. Close to about 500 gallons worth of rainwater storage. As you can see, we're about half there, so we're gonna need some rain pretty soon.
Permaculture is all about setting up a system, designing in a way that basically is sustainable, where you're not putting in all these inputs and energies that get wasted. It's investing in the future in a way.
We're definitely not the first people to have done this kind of thing. And they're doing fantastic things in Jordan, I believe. and which is a much harsher climate than what we're dealing with here, and they've made enormous progress over there.
Once I learned about that, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is how I plan my life. This is how we plan our property here. It's been great having that foundation of learning for everything we're doing here.
So this is all of our solar equipment. This is what powers us in the RV. Eventually all this will be used to power the house as well. From the panels, all that power goes into our charge controller over here. We have 2 inverters here that are stacked. So if one starts drawing too much power, the other one will kick in, and we can double the output capability. I think 7,000 running watts approximately. Right here we have 4 Tesla batteries. They're all hooked together, which gives us about approximately 20 kilowatt hours worth of storage. All that goes right here into the combiner box, through the inverters, and then out through these panels over here. And then we just run the wiring to where we need it. A small system, but it's pretty much all we need out here. We actually don't use a whole lot of power out here. But these 15 panels is all we use, and it's been absolutely fantastic. More than enough for my wife and I out here. You know, people keep asking us if we're gonna add more solar, more power and stuff like that, but eventually we kind of want to reduce our needs for electricity. So this will be more than enough for everything we'll need out here. We live out here in the desert. Rainfall is about 13 inches annually, give or take. Water's scarce. We don't have a well out here. We need to collect water off of every surface because we get rain, or bulk of our rain, one time a year. We get a smaller monsoon season, kind of in the winter, but we have one opportunity to catch pretty much most of the water we're going to use throughout the year. So we need as much collection surfaces and as much storage as possible. Shade is absolutely invaluable. So I thought, kind of mix a couple of things. Not only can we catch rainwater off of this, but it's a great place for us to kind of get out of the sun while we're working. So this thing is like 110 feet long and 20 feet wide, 2,200 square feet. Some of our biggest storms, maybe we'll get 2 to 3 inches, which is nothing compared to the other areas of this country. And like, let's say a couple of inches falls, you know, that's just in our catchment area, probably getting like 2,000 to 3,000 gallons of water. Both of us became permaculture certified designers. And you know, we want to utilize our techniques out here to sort of revitalize the landscape. Desertification is a problem here in the desert. We decided to kind of take that challenge, kind of live in this environment, and see if we can't put those techniques that we've learned to the land here. With the poly tanks, clearly that wasn't nearly enough water. It's enough water for us as our needs right now, but as we keep growing and expanding, as we're growing more food, as we might have more animals out here, we're going to need more water. And so that prompted us to do one of our first Earthbag projects, is this massive cistern over here. Our roof right now pumps right into the poly tanks, but when it overflows, it'll overflow into this cistern. Eventually, when we're done with the poly tanks, we'll pump it right into this cistern. But this is an Earthbag cistern. It goes 5 feet underground and 3 feet above ground. But this thing is massive. I think it's a 17-foot interior diameter and about 8 feet total height. So it holds just under 14,000 gallons of water. We'd like to be growing our own, much of our own food, maybe start a food forest, plant more trees, and really mix up those techniques, you know, some in-ground gardening, maybe some raised beds. We definitely want to put some greenhouses into the ground, more temperature controlled, might be just the way to grow here in our particular climate. And in the back, that's where we got our chickens, and we actually brought them from the city. You know, that's called the gateway animal. Usually you start with your chickens and then you start getting more animals. The house will consist of 4 parts eventually. We started with 2 underground rooms. This is our first underground room, and it's actually a root cellar. If you're trying to be self-sufficient, self-sustainable, food storage is an absolute must. We wanted to go underground with that just to keep those temperatures much more stable. And this right here is our first Earthbag dome. 20-foot interior diameter, and of course, as wide as your Earthbag dome needs to be, it needs to be exactly as tall. So this thing is probably at least 20 feet tall, probably 21 to 22 feet tall. We got a cob exterior on here to protect the bags. You don't want those bags exposed to sunlight for too long because that UV radiation will break them down. Living this type of lifestyle, kind of building everything from the ground up. I mean, this was just bare land when we started, nothing out here. Everything takes longer and costs more than expected. You know, you might have an idea of how things are gonna go, but nothing ever quite works out that way. It takes a lot of time, for sure. A lot of time, a lot of resources.
I knew starting this journey was not going to be easy. I knew there was a lot that we needed to learn.
There was going to be a lot of problem solving, that I was going to need to be a lot more independent. So moving from that city life to more of this off-grid life, you know, I started kind of doing more things by myself. I started learning how to work on my own car, do repairs around the house. I started doing all that myself so that I was ready for those challenges out here. Being out here really has allowed me to sort of take control of my health. You know, I feel a lot better. I feel a lot stronger than even I did in my 20s. I'm in my early to mid 40s now, and I probably feel the best I've ever felt in my life.
Before we moved out here, I felt a lot of just isolation, emptiness. I was looking for something more in my life, and once we made the decision to start living a more self-reliant life, living more sustainably, everything changed. My whole world just changed. And, you know, I don't think it was necessarily moving out to the country or, you know, doing all the things we were doing, trying to live in a dirt house. It was making that decision that I wanted to take more control over my life and design a life on my terms and find more of a connection to the world. And that's what I found here. It's a really beautiful thing. This is our north-facing bottle window. And basically it's just using some discarded glass bottles. We also have some jugs. The larger ones here are jugs. In the center here, those are microwave plates. It's just a practicality thing. We have a limited budget, so we use what we have. We make do with what we have. Sometimes you can find a lot of repurposed things for free. It can be a sustainability thing, you know, reusing things. Sometimes it's just garbage, honestly. Things that are discarded, our bottle windows.
She really put her heart and soul into each of these windows and really tried a number of different experiments on these, including painting the bottles to give her just the right colors she wanted. She used glass etching on some of these. And this Gothic window, which is our largest, you know, employs like all the different techniques, the paint, the etching, and then she even added a necklace that our mother made as just sort of this really nice finishing touch and just really made this very personal, her own creation. I love it.
Sometimes it takes more time building that way. So you kind of have to compromise time, money. That's the way that we've learned to live out here.
Living in a dome is a very unique experience. There's just a different energy, a different vibe to it. The sound is real different, totally different feel to it. We can't wait until we actually get to move into here, but obviously still a lot of work. A lot of work building this, and still a lot of work to finish it. With Earthbag construction, you can build them in squares or something like that. Really, you can use your imagination, but a round structure is always going to be your most solid type of structure. And then if you build a dome, it's like the most solid thing you can build, especially with Earthbags. We've also added what I like to call a floating loft. So that'll give us the advantage of kind of using some of this upper space. I mean, this thing is 20 feet tall. All these boards, they're actually built right into our walls. So it's supported all the way around by all these Earthbags on top of here. As unique as the feeling is down there, it's even more so up here, because you can really feel sort of like the weight of these bags sort of like right above your head. It might give you kind of an unsettling feeling unless you kind of know the science behind how these domes are built. I think one of the things that surprises people is the fact that it's just my wife and I out here sort of making it on our own by ourselves. I mean, we do a tremendous amount of work out here, and I think it's kind of unusual to see.
So this is one of the bags that we've used for our Earthbag building. It's made of woven polypropylene. We got these bags from a packaging company. They're all misprinted, and they would otherwise just be garbage. So what we put in these bags is just soil, basically.
Are you ready?
Ready. Some people that build with Earthbags, they might stabilize the soil with either cement or lime, depending on what the composition of the soil is. We did not stabilize our soil. We felt that the soil was very stable on its own. It had just the perfect ratio of clay to sand. And when you have just that magical mix, you just add some water, moisten it, and then when you tamp it, it turns into this hard, solid block that's perfect for building.
In order to really get it solidified and turn it into like a brick, that comes to tamping. That's the best part right there.
And you just have to repeat that hundreds of times and you have a building.
Just that simple. We ended up going with Earthbags because of the cost efficiency. Building with Earthbags can be incredibly cheap. You know, each of these bags maybe costs 20 to 25 cents. So like each of those underground portions were probably like maybe $100 worth of Earthbags. This thing maybe $300 worth of Earthbags. Not too bad, especially when you consider lumber prices are right now. Although Earthbags are very poor insulators, they have a lot of thermal mass. Now these walls are 2 feet thick, so that wall will sort of heat up during the day, and then at night it'll release that heat. We've already been testing out some of the temperatures up here and in the underground portion, and we've been noticing like a 20-degree difference right now between what it is like outside and inside the dome. This type of lifestyle was really the first time in my life that I've really been able to challenge myself in such a way where I could keep myself interested, keep myself focused constantly. I could never find that kind of challenge in my day-to-day city life. There's new challenges every day. I get to wake up, I get to do some problem solving, I get my exercise in with all the physical labor we do out here, Under here is where we plan to have our bedroom. Right now I just got a small hole cut into the floor. It's all we need right now. It's kind of my idea to have a bedroom underground. Perfect for sleeping weather. That's what I like. Dark, cool. So this will eventually be our bedroom. And this will give you a really good idea of just how those bags are laid. Each course stacked right on top of the next, barbed wire in between. You could say we have some wood boards in here, which that'll be used for putting in like electrical outlets and everything like that, switches. Eventually we'll be putting an earthen floor above the gravel, earth along the walls to cover up those bags. We'll add that personal touch once we finish it off down here.
For me, the biggest thing is a sense of connection. And really taking the time to understand myself better, having more love and acceptance of myself and, you know, my partner.
We knew we needed to do something different. We wanted to spend more time together as a couple, Jess and I. This gives us that opportunity to do that. We get to spend all of our time together. Maybe that's not right for every couple, but that was right for us.
Spending that much time with one person every day, you know, we get on each other's nerves, but learning to really work together and understand each other, communicate, having that closer connection is so important.
It's that opportunity to actually live a life together and not just working all the time and then seeing each other in passing.
It gives me a sense of indescribable joy and peace. Every day I wake up and I am so grateful for the life I've chosen. I don't regret it at all, even on days when I'm so tired and I'm feeling sore and I'm just, you know, cranky or whatever. I have a lot of gratitude.
When we do get a project done, it feels amazing. Sometimes it feels like those victories are so few and far between. And I know some people might lack that confidence to just kind of get out and do what they want to do. But, you know, start small. Start those small projects and get those done. And then every project you do really builds on that confidence. And then pretty soon, you know, an impossible build like this becomes a reality.
When I hear people talking about homesteading or living off-grid, and one thing that I came to realize too is it's not going to just solve all of your problems. You know, if you have problems living in the city, it's too noisy, too many people, it's stressful. Yeah, some of that's gonna go away, but there's gonna be new problems, and some of those problems you're gonna be bringing with you. So it's really best to work on issues that you might be having with yourself that you need to come to terms with and solve before you make that huge leap.
There are definitely hard times. There are definitely setbacks, things that just get you down, but they never really got me down too much. One thing, it's good to have another person out here with you so that when one's feeling down, you can pick the other person up. We met those challenging times and we've done it with smiles for the most part.
If you can design a life that fulfills all your needs, you're not just existing, but you're thriving. I had this dream to live more sustainably, to find more meaning in life, more connection, and this is where I found it.